Happiness is beautiful, it's a kind of reality. Happiness is the highest good, happiness is free. So let's be so very happy. Yeah, let's be so very happy. Yeah, let's be so very happy.
Welcome to the Happiness Show. This is George Ortega. I'm here with Lionel Ketchian, and we're here to talk about happiness, because happiness is, always has been, and always will be the point of it all. Okay, today we're going to be talking about the happy pill. Okay, Lionel, why don't you start us off? Why do we need a happiness pill?
Well, I wish we didn't. But, well, George, this is an interesting subject, and one which I'm going to be interested in listening to you as you talk about it and talk with you further. My initial response to the happiness pill is that we don't need it, but I could be wrong about that. After listening to George, he's a pretty smart guy, and he's got some interesting viewpoints that I think he's right about. And basically, the only thing I want to say before we begin to talk about the happiness pill is that I think the responsibility for happiness is within each and every one of us, and that we really do need to take responsibility for our happiness. And the more we focus on that as a skill, as we've talked about over the past few weeks, and as a need, then the more we can understand that happiness is our responsibility and something we can do something about. But as we all know, unhappiness is also predominant, and it's a problem in the world. So that I guess anything that could be of aid to people. For example, people shouldn't walk around on crutches for the rest of their life if they're don't need them. But certainly, if you had an operation, crutches for a few weeks would enable you to not put too much weight in the area that needs fixing. And once that heals and recovers, and you could depend on it, you put your full weight and stride on it again, and you're off without the crutches. So my thinking on this is, if we do need a happy pill, it might be like a crutch that would get us to where we need to go, and maybe even show us that we can get there. And so I find George's comments on this very interesting, and just like you in the audience, I'm going to be listening in and sharing with George, and probably asking him some of the questions you might have. So George, I congratulate you for doing a lot of thinking on the happiness pill. It's something you've been working on for quite a while.
Yeah, I think you hit on really the reason. It's not that we quote-unquote need it per se, because we could become very happy by smiling a lot, by choosing pleasant thoughts, by, there are so many ways of becoming happier. But the point is, like it's, for example, with exercise. Exercise works in making our bodies healthier in so many ways. But for some, a lot of us just don't do it. We just don't utilize these ways because they are time-consuming and difficult and painful, whatever, right? So while the happiness pill may not be quote-unquote necessary, it could be so useful because, again, you have happiness is what everyone wants. It's our main goal in life, and if it could come as easily as taking a pill once a day or something, that would change the world. It would be revolutionary. The world could, because what happens is, as we become happier, let's say the pharmaceuticals created this happiness pill, and we began to take it, on a daily basis or whatever. Now, I just wanted to say, a successful happiness pill couldn't have substantial side effects. It's not going to, just really wreak havoc on our health and all, because that would defeat its purpose. But you have a pill that's engineered so it's got minimal side effects, less side effects, for example, than most meds or than a lot of meds. What would happen is that as people become happier through a pill, through whatever way, but in this instance through a pill, we become better people. We create a better world. We create a more happy world for everyone. So you were saying before that using the analogy with crutches, it may not be something that would have to be used for generations and generations. It might be that one generation of us taking this pill, for 5, 10 years. Because Yeah, or the idea is like we might take and then we'll build a world where our children and grandchildren and great grandchildren will not have to take the pill because we'll have created such an amazing world for becoming and staying very happy in very natural ways. That's why it's such a powerful idea, because it's so easy. I mean, if it could be engineered, it would like solve the problem of the world.
Well, yes, and I agree with you that anything that can help us become happier, especially as I was listening to you, George, and you mentioned if these pills could help parents become happier, and the kids just watch their parents and they learn to be happy as a result of seeing parents that are happier, that's a good thing, and I agree with that. Right now, we don't really have such a pill. We have them for depression, and again, you know, the depression is really, you take this pill, it works on serotonin, it brings you up to the level, that's not happiness, that's just normalcy, which includes unhappiness, but at least it's not, you know, depression. You know, so it's out of depression into the realm of unhappiness, which is okay. But you're saying, let's go from unhappiness to happiness, which is not something anybody's working on.
Well, no, I'm not. I can't say that nobody's working on it, because I've read a few articles where some of the happiness researchers have made statements about it. So it could actually be the fact that pharmaceuticals are working on it, but we may not hear about it because they haven't found the answer yet. But I wanted to address like some of the objections that some of us may have to something like this. One of them, for example, might be that many of us may feel that an answer like this is like so unnatural. And like I would have to say personally that, yeah, natural things I think are the best in a sense. But then when you think about it, we live in such an unnatural world. I mean, we have medications, for example, for everything, and they greatly improve our lives. You and I were talking about this before the show, that the reason why we live so much longer today is because of our advanced medicine, our, you know, the medications, procedures, and all. They're all unnatural. Look around us. I mean, the light, the microphones, the cameras. I mean, we live in an extreme. Our clothing, everything about our lives is quote unquote unnatural, but all these things make our lives so much more pleasant in so many ways. So yeah. So to answer the issue of it's unnatural, sure, but I mean, actually, in a certain sense, one can say that, hey, just because human beings created, does that make that unnatural? I mean, because we're natural human beings, you know. Anything that I think that happens within the universe is natural, right?
That's true. That's true.
So yeah, so the idea is like, yeah, a happiness pill to some may seem unnatural, but when you think about the world we live in, it really wouldn't be more unnatural than virtually anything. Yeah.
Well, George, you're right. And some of the pills that, you know, as you say, exercise is there. We could exercise and get healthier on our own. How few of us do that? It's true. Some of us do, some of us don't. Some of us have excuses for why we don't, and some of us try, but it's just not enough. So then they invent, you know, cholesterol medication and blood pressure reducing medication. But one of the interesting things about, for example, some of the cholesterol medication, you know, you have a higher than normal cholesterol, but then you take the medication, your cholesterol goes down. But the other interesting thing with I think one particular pill is that it has 4 other good things that happen to you. It affects it gives you a healthy heart. It affects your blood sugar for those who have a tendency towards diabetes, and it serves other functions. So that's interesting because the benefits are so good that even if you didn't have cholesterol as a problem, you almost would want to have that problem just so you could take the drug. And it's true that people are living longer. And is it because of happiness? I guess not yet. But imagine with happiness introduced into it, that might work. At least they'll be happy for longer. But I guess it's really medication that's helping prolong certain lives. So I have to agree with you that the pill done in the right way could make sense. Now, if there's some work being done on it, that's great, but the pharmacies have to be encouraged to do it. They have to, I guess, see the need and fulfill it. You know, if chemistry could do wonders, I'm sure it can.
Yeah, and I think, like, you know, one of the reasons why perhaps we don't hear as much of it as we could is because of this quote-unquote unnaturalness, or the idea, like you hear some people say, and this is a very funny comment, sometimes you hear people say, I wouldn't want to live in a totally happy world because it would be boring. Okay, now that is an extremely funny statement, because like by definition, if one is very happy all the time, there would be no room there for any boredom. I mean, you know, you can't be totally happy and any amount of bored at any time, you know?
True.
So that's the idea. And like, for example, with like there was George Orwell wrote that book, 1984, was it, I think?
Yes.
He introduces soma, you know, this pill that apparently makes everyone blissed out. But, I mean, he presents it as a curse. He presents it as an agent that has, like, deprived them of their humanity. You know, so he presents it in a negative light. Now, a happiness pill wouldn't have to be like that at all. You were talking about the benefits of the cholesterol medication you're taking. With happiness, there is a whole body of research that demonstrates that as we become happier, we make more money, we become physically healthier, we become emotionally healthier, we have more friends, we enjoy our friends more, a whole collection, we become better people. So, I mean, to have a pill that would make us happier would just influence the whole span of our lives, from economics to society to work to everything. So it you know, so to the contrary to how it was portrayed by Orwell and certain people who say that it deprives, a pill like that would deprive humanity. Actually, it might actually very much enhance it.
So how are you going to appeal to the pharmaceutical companies to get on the bandwagon for such an undertaking?
Well, part of it is like this show. I mean, like, I haven't announced this yet, might as well begin to. I'm in the process of creating a happiness club, happiness show website, and I'm going to be streaming all of the episodes. We've done it, at least 50 episodes in audio and a few select ones in video, and they'll go out throughout the world. So the idea is to get the word out, have people talking about it, have people thinking about it. Again, I don't think it's necessary. I think the pharmaceuticals, you know, I think they're already probably onto the idea that whatever drug or chemical they're working on has its final goal to help whoever's taking it to become happier. Because why do we take anything? Why do we take any drugs? I mean, why do we want to be healthy? Because it helps us be happier. So I think the pharmaceuticals are actually, you know, onto this. But, you know, having said that, I think that one way is like by promoting the idea through shows like this, and in other ways, you have people saying, hey, wait a minute, this would be good. I would buy it. I'd spend a few $100s a year on it, because, God, that would be very, very inexpensive to be so much happier.
Well, one thing that you know, hits me now is that, for example, if let's say you didn't take the medication, but you knew somebody who did, and they were happier, actually they'd be doing you some good by just being happier in your life. You know, you say, wow, that's great that this person's happier. So it would enable you to be happier just because the other person was happier, especially with somebody you're living with. So there's more than the benefit of the individual. There's the benefit to those around the individual. And you know, whether or not other people would take the drug, at least there would be benefits beyond the individual taking the drug.
Lionel, that is such a great point, because I think a lot of the fears that some people might have might be that, well, we don't want our children taking this, you know, it may not be safe and all. So, but I mean, you point to the perfect answer. The children wouldn't have to take it. You bliss out their parents. You make their parents very happy with the pill. Those kids are going to be very happy, because I have a feeling, I mean, like, generally kids are about as happy as adults on average, but kids also have the ability to feel much higher highs. All right, they feel lower lows, but they're able. I have a feeling that.
But not for long.
Right. Okay. But I have a feeling that what prevents the happiness of a lot of kids are adults, like their parents and all. You get a pill, you get a happiness pill that is making their parents, their aunts, uncles, friends much happier. Those kids are going to be happier naturally.
Oh, wait a minute! They're not allowed to sneak it into their teacher without a prescription.
Yeah,
because they're going to want their teachers to take it, that's for sure. Okay, I'm glad we're laughing about this, because that's fun. It's fun to do a show where we're laughing, because it doesn't really exist right now, you know, it could exist. I mean, we're laughing about it, but yet it really could exist, and it's a good idea. I mean, it really is a good idea.
Yeah. Another objection that might be raised by some is that, well, you know, if you create a pill that makes everyone happier, much happier, very happy, nobody's going to want to do anything, you know? Everybody's going to just like veg out and all. You hear that sometimes, you know, as kind of like an objection to happiness in general.
Sure.
Now, the research, again, totally refutes that. The research demonstrates that as the people who do the most in this world, who get the work done, who create the businesses, who make the money, are the happier people. Happier people have more energy, more motivation. I mean, so actually, by taking this pill to make people happier, you would be making them more involved with their friends. They would not, there'd be anything but, I mean, I find this in my own life. I work on a technique to become happier, to raise my mood over like 10, 15, 20 minutes or so. First thing I want to do, I want to like go out and be with friends or call up a friend and do something. That's how happiness is. It makes us want to like do things. So yeah, definitely the idea is that like becoming extremely happy through something as simple as a pill would just raise our level of motivation and make us so much more involved with our world.
I could just see the interviews at the next World Series, and they come up to the guy with the mic, you know, and how did you help to win the World Series? Well, I knocked those 3 balls out of the ballpark, but first I took my happy pill this morning.
Oh, yeah.
But in sports, I got to tell you that my own investigation has always found, I've found this to be a fact, that athletes that are happy consistently do better. And when they've been asked, you know, like, how come you had such a good day, whether it's a person on the edge of a surfboard, he said, I just felt happy in the beginning of it all. And you know what that means for them? It means they felt more in control of themselves. And that's why it interpreted into a better skill for them in their practice. So happiness and control are interchangeable, and so maybe this drug will have some essence of control over oneself. And I think depression or unhappiness is really a helplessness, a learned helplessness, as Martin Seligman would refer to this as. And this learned helplessness makes us feel we're out of control. So if we could feel we have control, maybe this will be another aspect that the drug can deal with.
Because there is now also a whole body spanning decades of study on antidepressants. The idea there is that they find that as people who are very depressed take the antidepressants, initially it's the antidepressant that's doing the effect. Initially, the antidepressant is like raising their serotonin level, just basically physiologically, biochemically, just changing their brain functioning in a way that enhances their mood. But then what happens is the person begins to get in touch with those pleasant feelings and to kind of like understand them and understand how to create them themselves. And so naturally with most antidepressants, for most people, you don't have to take them that long, you know, a few months, you know, a few weeks or something, and that just kicks in a natural process. So, you know, addressing this issue of dependency, of like having like a crutch as a happy pill, the research that we've had for decades on antidepressants demonstrates that you can engineer an agent like this and have it affect our level of happiness. So maybe even as adults, we might want to take this for a couple of years, and in those 2 years we'll have learned what happiness is, how to access it, how to focus on it so well that we wouldn't need those pills anymore.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, especially if it could teach us to better control ourselves and that we have more control of ourselves. I think it's about control, and if it could help us with that, I think of this as almost a jump start to get us in the right direction. And once we realize, hey, I'm doing it, I can do this. Once we're doing it, we probably would feel we want to continue to do it, so we would learn all we can about happiness and implement the ways to be happy and learn the skills better and assist ourselves in the undertaking. So it's a pretty good idea.
Lionel, you know, on this show we talk about a lot of different ways to promote happiness, bringing it into schools, having our government get involved, having businesses teach us how to be happier for a price, creating happiness shows, happiness magazines, happiness clubs. All these ideas can work, all right? But this idea is so simple. Popping a pill, what could be easier? And again, you have to answer the objections that come across a lot. We've had an experience with drugs in the 60s, early 70s that didn't work. It was a failed experiment. We had like LSD and all the hallucinogens and all that just, people thought that, well, maybe it might expand our consciousness, make us better people. It turned out that no, they were very dangerous, they were very difficult to understand, and they really wreaked havoc on a lot of lives. So you can create, though, drugs that don't take us that way. I mean, you can, like the antidepressants certainly don't do that. I mean, you can engineer a chemical, a substance that will enhance our lives without those negative side effects. And if you can do that, if the pharmaceuticals invest the money to do this, to do the research and create a pill like this, it's a new world. It's a brand new world. This show would be over. This show, I mean, there'd be no need for this show. Which, I mean, that might be good, whatever.
We'll just leave the flag here and we'll film that. Okay, so George, if this is so good, why haven't we heard about it?
I think it's the same reason why we don't hear much about happiness. I mean, we hear a lot about making more money, about becoming more successful, because in general, most of us think, well, yeah, if I have a lot more money, I'm going to be a lot happier. Of course, the research demonstrates that no, I mean, above the poverty level doesn't influence, but very few people know that. So I think that the main reason is the reason why we're doing this show, because people don't understand happiness that well, they don't value it nearly enough, and that's why you don't hear about the pharmaceuticals working on solutions to this.
George, that's a good answer. I'll buy that. You did bring up something that I found very interesting, and I want to bring it up for our viewers now, George, and that is that this happiness pill, if it was in existence or it was going to be worked on, could be advantageous to things like maybe we'll feed it to all our politicians to begin with. Make it a requirement they take this before they run for any elections, or war criminals or sex crime criminals, or for that matter, prisoners. Depending on the problem, because I don't know if you agree with me, but I mean, a lot of crime, the basis for the crime is unhappiness. I mean, people are doing these things because they think it's going to get them to a point where they're going to be happy in their life, and then they experience themselves being put behind bars, and they certainly realize that that's not happiness. So the only problem was that what they were doing and committing the crime wasn't going to bring them happiness either. So this is interesting that if we actually could rehabilitate criminals with a drug like this. Now, if my first thought, I don't want to answer too much for you, but my first thought is, isn't that a real imposition on criminals? But yet we're incarcerating them, we're putting them in jail in some cases for the rest of their life. In some cases we're killing them. So maybe it isn't so much to talk about a drug that could help the world in dealing with the problem of insanity, if you will, or crime. I
agree with you completely. I mean, in terms of criminals here in the United States, there's actually laws that if you have some kind of a mental illness and you're either a danger to yourself or to others, then you're mandated by the law to take whatever medication is necessary for the person to control their behavior. So this could be applied to criminals, but I think more globally, more expansively, yes, terrorism. Why are people terrorists? Because they're not happy. They're not happy with what we're doing, what other people are doing, but the essence is that they're not happy. Wars. Why are wars created? Because people in one country aren't as happy as they can be, and they think like invading another country or starting a war is going to make them happier. So yes, that the answer to all of these geopolitical problems, the answer to crime, to our misbehavior, our doing what's wrong, is because we're not happy. And so yeah, so that just highlights the fact that the happiness pill would be the answer to civilization. I mean, like, there are many other answers, of course. There's education and happiness. There's education in general. There's so many other things that can be improved. But nothing would compare to the effect and the expansive influence of something so simple as a pill to make people much happier. It would change the world in a way that we have never experienced before.
I wonder if it would change it when you say never experienced before. If the ripple effect in being happier would also help eliminate not only crime but maybe illness, illnesses of various sort. Because again, unhappiness could be the cause of a lot of these things, and maybe even something like greed. I mean, maybe people will realize if they're happier, they could share things more with others, or be a little fairer with others, and all of a sudden you've got a different outlook on life, and maybe that would be the case.
Aristotle called happiness the highest good. I mean, I think he was totally on target with that, because you're right. I mean, and it's not just philosophy, it's not a statement, it's backed by so many studies that as we become happier, we become better people, more compassionate, more caring, more ethical. So yeah, and again, you know, just the idea that something so simple, because like, again, there are many strategies for becoming better people, religion, laws, you know, but, you know, for example, like in our world, in our country, we're very violent. We're, you know, there's a lot of crime in this country. So, like, the religion and the law isn't working nearly as much as it could. Make these people happier, make the would-be criminals, the criminals happier, make us all happier through something as easy as a pill. You're going to make us all much better people, and that's going to make us even happier.
Well, you know, I wonder if it could be, if there could be a pill, well, I'm digressing a little bit, for example, prisoners that are violent, you know, and dangerous and killers, it shouldn't be too pharmacologically hard to make them less dangerous. And I wonder, and I don't think we do that. So let's think about this, Ron. We just don't do things like that. We don't make somebody who's dangerously, violently aggressive in prison subdued with a pill.
A lot of times we don't do that because that would be kind of like infringing on some kind of freedom. Sometimes we do, actually, with criminals, that they have the same laws with mental illness applied to them. So some of them have to take chemicals. But the idea with something like this is like you'd be giving criminals and people something that they would like pay to take. It's not like you wouldn't be forcing anyone to take this. All right, well, that's all we have time for today. Thanks for watching. In the future, we'll explore other topics designed to help us better enjoy life. Feel good, think well, feel very happy, and I hope you'll join us next time here on The Happiness Show.
Happiness is powerful, it's our underlying need. Happiness is why we live each day. Happiness is destiny. So let's be so very happy. Yeah, let's be so very happy. Yeah, let's be so very happy.